Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Horror House, and another massive episode we have. Joining me today, I'm so honoured to have him here. He is the founder of imockery.com. Started the 2 months of Halloween celebration every year. He's the creator of video games like A Bobo's Big Adventure, Bionic Chainsaw, Pogo Gorilla, and a new upcoming game on Steam called Grave Chase, which I am very excited to hear about. Please welcome Roger Barr.
Hey. Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it, and the honor is all mine.
Believe me, the honour is none of yours, and it is by far all mine. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm kind of really interested to hear about this new upcoming game because I know you're very much into your video games as well as horror. What's all that about?
Of course, I grew up on, the old 8-bit classics back in the day. I started out playing on the Intellivision and became obsessed with games like Night Stalker and Snafu and some of those, and then moved on to the Nintendo Entertainment System and Sega Genesis. And those games have just always kind of stuck with me throughout the years. Eventually, I started an account on Newgrounds some years ago in the it was late 90s or early 2000s, and started making Flash games on there.
Right.
And basically, over the years, I made different Halloween games. I did some Christmas ones, some random ones, and then I did a Bobo's Big Adventure, which was just kind of like my ultimate homage to the Nintendo Entertainment System, and
Yeah.
made some other games for Adult Swim and all. And now Grave Chase is this new return to Halloween for me. I've been wanting to do an original Halloween game again for a while. With Grave Chase, it's the idea is you're two siblings, and you've been orphaned because the groundskeeper in the local graveyard killed your parents. So you want to
Okay.
go get revenge on this big evil guy, but you're just kids and you can't do it on your own. Uh, what you're doing is you're digging up the body parts from the graveyard of all of his victims and building monsters that will eventually tear him limb from limb when it's all said and done. But in order to do so, you got to play through the 31 days of October. Each stage is one
Okay.
days of October. If you can survive all 31 days, you'll get your vengeance.
Awesome, awesome. So is this game is currently in development? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
mean, it's
out yet.
honestly the game is done now.
Right.
We've tested the hell out of it, and we have it up and running and functioning on Steam with all the achievement cards and all that kind of fun stuff that they put on Steam. But we thought it'd be better to release it in the fall, so we don't have an official date yet. But I'm eyeing sometime in September. I mean,
Yeah.
like already mentioned, with the 2 months of Halloween celebration I do on
Yeah.
iMockery. We started on September 1st every year, so probably I'm hoping by mid-September we'll release the game on Steam for everyone to pick up and enjoy. So.
Very cool, very cool. Obviously your love of video games and classic 8-bit video games, like you said, is second to none. Are sort of horror games, are you into your horror games? Is that something that's a
Oh, I mean,
big thing?
like I said, Night Stalker was one of the first horror-themed games I ever played when I was a kid, and it's just like this creepy game in a maze where you're just surrounded by spiders and killer robots, and just a really just droning soundtrack. It almost sounds like it was inspired by something John Carpenter would have done.
Oh,
Uh,
very cool.
but yeah, I mean, I definitely played my share of horror games over the years. On my first computer, one of the earliest shareware games I got was Hugo's House of Horrors, and that's a fantastic adventure game in the same style as like King's Quest and
Okay.
Space Quest or Monkey Island, but
Okay.
it was a Halloween themed one as well. You're just in a haunted house, and I wrote an article about that on my mockery if you guys want to learn more about it. But yeah, I mean, I've also played the Resident Evil series.
Mhm.
Resident Evil 2 was still one of my favorite horror experiences. I remember just playing it alone in a dark basement there to live up the classic teenage gamer
Yep.
stereotype.
Yep.
Yeah, sitting alone in a dark basement. but it was just so frightening, having those zombie dogs burst through the windows and things like that. It was just one of my favorite ones. But I mean, other games like Ghosts and Goblins, of course, is right at the top of my list. There's cheesy ones like Chiller or Monster Party that I have soft spots for.
Right.
Yeah, I absolutely love horror themed games.
Awesome, awesome. Moving back, well, not back onto movies, I suppose. This is where we start talking about movies. This is primarily a movie-based podcast, of course. I'm interested to know what sort of first got you into the genre on film, and do you remember your first horror film that you watched?
Yeah, actually, I do. I remember going to the video store with my father back in the day, and just whenever we went in there, all I wanted to do was rent all these R-rated horror movies because their covers look so amazing. I mean, I think of films like The Video Dead. Just looking at the VHS box art on that alone makes a kid want to rent that. Who wants to rent a Disney movie when you can rent something with a zombie bursting out of it?
Exactly.
So, but my first film was actually Piranha. That was the first horror movie my father actually let me rent. I remember him renting John Carpenter's Halloween, but he said I was too young at the time for him to allow me to watch that. But one time we went to the video store, I was like, you know what, all right, you can rent it. So Piranha, the Jaws exploitation film, was actually my first, and I loved it then, and I still love it to this day.
Yeah, so, presumably starting off with sort of a, like you said, almost exploitation B-movie is where obviously your huge love of B-movie horror comes into it. I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but would you say you're more of a fan of cheesy B-movie horror than the more sort of mainstream stuff?
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, I think the independent stuff is far more interesting than anything being that Hollywood is cramming down people's throats these days. Not that there aren't films with merit and all, but I'd much rather see something like It Follows than whatever the next incarnation of Resident Evil to go back to games. But the movies are not that good.
How many Resident Evil? I think, was it the final one that came out earlier this year?
I don't know. I sure hope so. The first one was kind of fun. I'll give that one some credit and all. But after that, I just didn't care about them. Not that the first one really followed the stories that well either, but it had some moments.
Yeah.
And who doesn't love Mila Jovovich? So.
Oh, of course. Everybody loves Mila Jovovich.
Yeah,
that just goes without saying.
Yeah. That's what they should actually do. They should do a sequel to The Fifth Element. Just make it Lilu versus zombies. That would work.
Yeah, I think we'd all be up for that. So what are some of these B movies that really stick out to you? Which are the ones that stick out to you aside from like Piranha and stuff? Obviously probably stuff from the 80s, but sort of what are some of your top ones?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the 70s and 80s are definitely the best periods for horror movies.
Yeah.
I have doubts that they'll ever be eclipsed, but that's not to say there's not great stuff still being made these days. For example, like just recently, stuff like Turbo Kid or Hobo with a Shotgun. I love those flicks. Even though they're not quite, I don't know if you would classify them as horror or just B movies or whatever, but I love them. But going back to your question, The Video Dead is obviously one of my big ones. It's just a cheesy movie about zombies coming out of a television and terrorizing these people. Night of the Creeps was a huge one for me. I've watched that countless times. Of course, I grew up on Trauma with the Toxic Avenger. And I actually loved Poultrygeist quite a bit too, especially the ending of that flick. That's a fun one. remember watching The Toxic Avenger so many times on the
Yeah.
USA Network.
Right.
Different horror hosts like Gilbert Gottfried and Rhonda Shear had USA Up All Night. They showed it sometimes,
Right.
along with some of the other ones like Class of Nukem High. And also there was Commander USA on Saturday afternoons, who is probably my all-time favorite B movie host. He doesn't get enough credit, so I really enjoyed watching any of the stuff that he showed on there. But I mean, I'm not sure you could qualify it as B movie, but a lot of John Carpenter flicks.
Absolutely.
Up my alley. I mean, They Live, Prince of Darkness.
Yes. Yes.
Huge for me. Prince of Darkness is my favorite John Carpenter film.
Right.
Aside from Big Trouble in Little China, those two I kind of back and forth on. But I mean, those are definitely a little bit bigger budget than your average B movie. Like,
Yeah.
You can tell the difference between that and The Video Dead for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the other ones. I mean, Halloween 3 is actually my, Halloween 3 season of the
Yes.
Witch is my, probably my favorite horror movie these days.
Really?
It's I know it's, the unsung one, compared to, the other Halloween films. And when it came out, it was very underrated and all that. And no one really liked it. But, I reviewed it many years ago and, professed my love for the movie. And it's just such an odd, random story. The mistake they made was, tying it in, with the Halloween brand.
Yeah.
The Michael Myers thing. If it had just been released as a movie on its own, I think it would have possibly done much better back then. But it's nice to see so many people have embraced it these days. But yeah.
Yeah.
For horror movies, my two favorites are Halloween 3 and Prince of Darkness.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, just call it Season of the Witch and you've got a decent film. I think that Halloween title on it has maybe left it undesirable to people because of its sort of reputation.
It got destroyed in the papers and all that back in the day. And I mean, there's a lot of cheesy elements to it. It's not, the biggest budget thing by any stretch, but it's an original story, and no one can argue that. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, you can't go wrong with Tom Atkins' mustache at the end of it, which is another reason I love Night of the Creeps. So.
Absolutely. I'm always very impressed with your very deep knowledge of B movies. I've never come across a person online with such an expansive knowledge of the stuff because, most people, myself obviously included, sticks certainly more to mainstream horror and indie horror, of course, but you really go deep with it all. I really appreciate that. I'm always very impressed by that.
Well, it's very kind of you to say. I mean, I attribute it to just my love of these kind of movies and all. My dream is someday to make one of these myself. I'd absolutely love to do that sometime. But I mean, there's just so much stuff that I missed growing up. I think it's fun to go back and look at these movies I didn't get to watch when I was a kid and all. You got everyone talks about some of their favorite horror anthologies like Creep Show or Trick or Treat or things like that, and everyone knows those. But there's other ones like Nightmares, which is a really fun little horror anthology. It has Emilio Estevez in one of my favorite horror segments called The Bishop of Battle, and it's basically like Tron, but a horror movie. He's kind of fighting for his life against this killer arcade cabinet. There's just so much out there if you look around. So I definitely recommend everyone take a step back from just all the major studio releases and see what stuff used to be released just direct to video back in the day, because there's a lot of good gems out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can already tell we're only 15 minutes into this episode. I can already tell there is going to be so many recommendations coming out of you in this.
All day long.
My list is going to double in size by the time this recording's finished, I think. But I'm also interested to know if do you go sort of far back with horror? Are you a fan of the older stuff as well? Obviously, you said you love 70s and 80s, but what about before then? What about like 50s, even
I mean,
30s?
there's definitely like some old stuff, that I watch. I definitely am not someone who watches a ton of that stuff.
Hmm.
But I've seen, like all the old classics like Dracula.
Yeah,
I love Creature from the Black Lagoon.
yeah,
I love some of the really old cheesy flicks like Robot Monster, if you've
yes,
ever seen that. So, I mean, I've definitely seen my fair share of them, but I'm definitely more of a, late 70s or 80s guy when it comes to my regular viewings.
yeah. What another thing that I've sort of started asking people on this show, Vincent Price, yay or nay?
Oh, how can you not love him? Absolutely.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Any favourite Price role?
Uh, does Michael Jackson's Thriller count?
It does, yes, it does. That is where most people, I
I
think,
mean,
were
come on,
introduced.
that's just what I grew up with. I mean, of course, everyone loves him, in just about anything
Yeah,
he's ever done. But his Thriller rap,
yeah,
it kills me every time. Um, but no, I mean, his body of work speaks for itself, and I mean, just his voice. He really had the perfect voice for horror.
absolutely, absolutely. Vincent Price is the personal favourite of Horror House podcast. He
Is
is,
it?
yeah. That
Well,
is where I go. I love Price more than anyone else in the entire world, and
well,
yeah.
that's certainly a good choice. I remember trying to think of some of the other flicks of his that I really like. I remember House of Long Shadows.
Hmm.
Um, Theater of Blood would probably be one of his best.
Yes, I love Theatre of Blood. I think
Yeah.
I think he often stated that Theatre of Blood was one of his favourite roles of his because obviously in that he plays a theatre actor who is sort of he's not the best theatre actor and he then decides to go about murdering his critics in
Right.
Shakespearean ways.
Yeah, and that's so good. I mean, remember when he fed them the poodles?
Yes.
That I mean, just the poodle with the little X's on its eyes
Yeah.
still kills me to this
It's
day.
fantastic. One of his
Yeah.
few sort of contemporary ones as well, because he's often
Mhm.
in the sort of 1800s, or at least it looks like the 1800s in most of Price's films. But yeah, I think that
Right.
that was actually set in the 70s when it came out, which was uh, obviously awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Another thing I've been meaning to check out, and I haven't seen it yet. I've just seen clips. Was the hilarious House of Frightenstein because I know he was on that show.
oh
Uh,
yes, yes,
so that's one of those things that I've been meaning to check out for quite some time.
yes, awesome. What about recently? I mean, I know you say it follows you quite enjoyed. What about like in the last couple of years? What have been your standouts? Because they've obviously it's been quite a decent sort of 18 months in the horror genre.
Yeah, we've definitely had some good stuff. Again, Turbo Kid. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not a pure horror movie. It's like a post-apocalyptic in a way, but I mean, it has so many so many incredibly gory kills. I mean, you might as well classify it as that. That's definitely one of my big ones. I really enjoyed Hobo with a Shotgun. I absolutely love that flick.
I haven't heard of that actually. What is that?
Oh,
Describe Hobo with a Shotgun if you can
uh,
better than its title does.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of what it sounds like. Basically, well, first off, it stars Rutger Hauer,
Okay.
uh, and yeah, he's just kind of thrown into this crazy world where he's kind of near death essentially,
Mhm.
and there's these bullies who burn in school buses filled with kids to terrorize
Right.
people. there's just all kinds of crazy stuff going on in this town. It's a beautiful B movie, to say the least. Super bloody, super violent, super over the top. But he's trying to put an end to these bad guys. But they hire this group. It's like a duo that are they don't speak or anything. They're known as the Plague. And if you look them up, again, seeing the visual is going to do far better than I can describe it. But the Plague is just one of my favorite moments. When you see them kind of chasing him down, they eventually throw him in a coffin and drag him off in their motorcycle and all that, and it's a lot of fun. I don't want to go too deep into it because if you haven't seen it, there's just so much fun that you should just experience. But the film was made by Jason Eisner, who also made an independent holiday-themed short film called Tree Venge. And it's basically about Christmas trees, showing that they're actually alive and they hate being cut down and decorated and everything. So they just, towards the end of this short film, they just exact their revenge and start killing everybody in town.
Excellent.
It's a lot of fun.
I that sort of stuff. I mean, that messes with my head. That's thinking about Christmas trees. Such a lovely decoration in the holiday season. Coming alive and just chop. I'm chopping you up.
And I mean, I love holiday horror films just as I love the ones themed after Halloween or anything else. So I thought that was a nice new spin on it.
Absolutely.
There's also a new movie called The Void, which I haven't seen yet.
Yes.
That's definitely on my list, and I've heard the story is just so, but it has a lot of nice throwback stuff to it, and the visuals just from the trailer that I watched look really great. So that one's definitely on my radar at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't see The Void yet either. I've been wanting to check that out, to be honest. I'm wondering if you have heard of a film that premiered last year, very, very small, called Tonight She Comes. No, it was very small. I actually was very, very fortunate enough to go to the premiere here in Manchester and interview the director on this very show, Matt Stewart, who's a wonderful guy. I know he has been taking that to various horror festivals in the US as well. I was just wondering if you had maybe even heard of that or checked that out, because that is a lot of fun. It is a massive gore fest. It's got so much sort of... It's a film that changes from a slasher into a satanic, horrendous mind F in the space of 5 minutes. And it just ramps up and ramps up and ramps up. It is well worth looking out for.
Cool. I'll definitely put that on my list and to check out.
I'm not sure what... I'm not sure...
I saw The Shallows. I
Yes.
didn't actually think that was that great. That one wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think...
but there's another horror movie, a shark one. I love shark horror movies as well. There's another one coming. I want to say it's like 48 meters down, or something like that.
I think it's 47 meters down.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's 47
like
meters down.
It's coming out this June, and basically, these two diving girls diving for the first time in a shark cage. The wire breaks and they plummet down to the bottom of the ocean, and it's kind of they have to decide whether to swim to the surface or they run out of oxygen. So I thought that was an interesting concept. So hopefully that'll be a good one. I saw Don't Breathe. That was okay. I like the idea of. I wanted more of them just sneaking around the house, trying not to make a noise with the guy. I thought it got a little crazy towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But I like it up until that. 10 Cloverfield Lane was a lot of fun. I mean, I'll pretty much see anything with John Goodman in it. So,
Absolutely.
I thought he was great in that.
Yeah. moving on slightly, imockery.com, of course, that is your brand. That is what Roger Barr is. Uh,
Mockery.com. Yep, that's the
yeah.
one. Doing that for since about 1998 or earlier.
Wow.
If you count when it used to be on GeoCities. So,
Wow. How did that come about first? What was the sort of thought
well,
process?
the impetus for it all was I was in college writing for college newspapers in Philadelphia back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I was just thinking to myself because I had already been learning web design and stuff just for the fun of it because I was a total computer nerd just like I still am.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, I was thinking, I spent all this time writing this stuff, but only people who went to my school and happened to pick up the paper could see it. Why not use this amazing new online space with
Yeah.
sites like Cities to, maybe see if some other people want to read it, and I could actually interact with them online rather than just hoping people are reading the newspapers and all and never get any feedback or whatever. So I started making random little sites on GeoCities, just poking fun at stuff or paying tribute to things. One of my earliest things I remember was talking about the Snorks, which was like the off-brand version of the Smurfs that lived under the sea. So yeah, I mean, I was writing about 80s stuff, right off the bat, or retro stuff, whatever decade it happened to be from.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, all right, I have like 10 different GeoCities sites because back in the day they only gave you 5 megs to work with.
5 megs.
Yeah, which is
Wow.
crazy to think about. And at the time that was a pretty good size, but that was back in the 90s. Now, you got 64 gigs on a
Yeah.
little thumb drive or whatever, and it's just unreal to even imagine that. But I was like, all right, I need to just register a website and just kind of combine all this stuff, or I'm just going to have to keep making, I'll have 100 GeoCities sites before it's all said and done, and linking them all together is just a real pain. So I condensed everything to i-mockery.com, and the reason I came up with that name was because at the time in the 90s, everything was I this or E that, all the sites were named
Right.
that, and I just kind of wanted to poke fun at all that, so I was like, all right, iMockery, why not? Never thinking that it was going to be something that, I would work on for 20 plus years. It was just like this random hobby, but then it kind of blew up and became the stepping stone for many other things. And I'm just honored that so many people remember it or still visit it every year for the the 2 months of Halloween celebration. I just like knowing that I've helped. If nothing else, I've given people some entertainment over the years and exposed them to things that they maybe wouldn't have discovered on their own.
Absolutely, absolutely. I never knew that. That is fascinating to me. That iMockery is just a mockery itself of
Yeah,
the
yeah, it
title
really well
of
was.
original
Yeah, and
websites.
in retrospect, I should have registered the domain without the hyphen as well, because some cyber squatter took that years ago when he saw my site was doing well and all that. But uh, it's just one of those goofy names that just kind of stuck. These days, it's really the name is totally outdated, and I've honestly considered archiving iMockery and starting a brand new website, just continuing what I do on
Yeah.
iMockery, but something more updated and a new name, maybe to bring in new audiences or what have you. But we'll see if that ever happens. I'm so picky about names and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I mean, that's just been, rumbling around in the back of my head for years at this point. So we'll see if it ever happens.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that'd work great. I mean, you are a very passionate man. You know what you love. You like writing about these things that you
Oh
love.
yeah,
Every
I'm never
audiences
going to stop
appreciate that.
writing about this stuff. Yeah, whether it's on iMockery or elsewhere. I mean, I've freelanced for some other outlets like Greg Central and Bloomhouse and all that. But I always come back to writing for my own site. Doing whatever I like on there as well. It's it's just been nice to meet so many people online, guys like you and all that, and who share my affinity for so many of these oddities that I just happen to stumble on in my research. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's great that you've, kept this up for, when did you say, 98 or something like that when you started?
Technically it was 1996, and
Okay.
1995 was when I was really just starting out with websites. 96 was really when I really started publishing articles to the web of
Wow.
this nature. Also, yeah, it's been quite a while.
So I'm going to show my age now, Roger. iMockery, or i-mockery.com, is older than I am.
Excellent.
I was born in 1997, so
No, I mean I love that because I've had people told me when iMockery was 10 years old, that they were still in elementary school, but they were still checking out stuff. So
yeah.
I love knowing that people have stuck around with it for so many years too. It's very humbling.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a credit to you and your general awesomeness, I think.
I think I don't know if it's awesomeness. I think it's more just obsessiveness.
It's
I don't
awesome
know what I'd do with my time otherwise.
awesome obsessiveness. I think that is the
All right, I'll take that. That
great
works.
word. Yeah. Speaking of sort of your time, spare time, stuff like that, what does Roger Barr do in his spare time, or is it just all this work and all this stuff like that?
Well, I obviously I love watching movies and all.
Yeah.
I love finding movies that I haven't seen. I live in. I'm lucky enough to live in California, so I get to go outdoors and do hiking or go to crazy flea markets.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we always hang out. Like we like to travel when we can. So there's all kinds of random stuff, but. Yeah, I mean, I really love scouring eBay. That's another one of my hobbies, just to see what old weird things I can find on there.
Yeah.
A lot of the content I've written about on my site over the years. I mean, I review toys. I love collecting
Yes.
toys. A
Yeah.
lot of horror toys, movies, just little weird promo items that only showed up in video stores. Um,
Mhm.
just earlier this morning, I was trying to find a copy of a movie that I absolutely love. Speaking of recent kind of chiller / horror flicks, Stoker. It's a movie from 2013 that is just absolutely fantastic, and it starred Nicole Kidman and Mia Wasikowska. I
That
think that's how
name.
you pronounce
That name that nobody can pronounce.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Absolutely incredibly beautiful and chilling, nightmarish film. Just so slow paced, but it's one of
Mhm.
my favorite films. Really good psychological thriller kind of movie. I recommend everyone check it out. But yeah, I was looking online, just seeing if I could find a copy of that since it's never on TV or anything. So
Awesome.
uh,
Awesome.
yeah, I
Like
just love doing this kind of stuff, and sometimes I'll appear on random podcasts like this, or just go hang out with friends, play video games. Just
yeah.
whatever happens to interest me anytime. That's what I'm doing, and I do love eating some good food too. So like anybody.
Like anybody. Always love the
Yeah.
good food. Yeah, I mean, obviously you must have some pretty wonderful sort of horror collectibles then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been collecting for quite a long time, so there's definitely some fun stuff in my collection.
Any stuff that sort of stands out? What are the big ones?
Let's see. Let me think what some of my favorite things are. Well, I have the two Halloween Boglins, Bogobones and Blobkin in their original cages. I always love those. I'm
Okay.
not sure if you're familiar with Boglins.
No,
They
I'm
were
not, but I will take your word for it that it's cool because
well,
you know that stuff.
they were actually really big in the UK for a while. They released more of them in the UK than they actually ever released in the States. So
Oh,
you should look
okay.
them up. They're basically like think of Muppets that look like little goblins and thrown into these cages with bent bars and everything, and
Okay.
they were ant puppets that you could operate their eyes and mouths. Really, really fun little creatures. But the two Halloween edition ones are quite hard to find these days. Um, I have some old Halloween E. Rosen candy containers that I love because I remember my mom and she grew up on stuff like that, and she was a big influence on me as far as Halloween goes because she was completely obsessed with it. So the earliest board game I ever played was Ideal's Haunted House. The Ideal company made this haunted
Excellent.
house. You had to traverse through it and eventually recover this red gem before you could escape. And it had just beautiful graphics on it. And again, I've written about all this
Yes.
stuff on this stuff. But some of my other favorite collectibles, let's see. Well, I definitely have some horror video games like the Nintendo Chiller game in the box. Was a fun thing. The game itself was actually brought to me by an iMockery reader at Comic-Con last year.
Oh, very cool.
I love exhibiting at the San Diego Comic-Con because I actually get to meet a lot of my readers face to face and all, so that's always fun. Let's see, what else have I got? One of my more recent obsessions is, well, not too recent. I've been collecting them for about 5 years, but I'm not sure if you had these where you're at, but in the States, we had these vending machines where you could put in 50 cents and get stickers out of them.
Okay.
And back in the day, they actually made horror ones for all kinds of random horror movies. You'd have some of the really big ones, like Halloween or Friday the 13th and what have you, but you'd also get stickers from movies like Return to Horror High or
Right.
just things like that. That Lair of the White Worm, for example, that's one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Just absolutely bonkers, but they never released any merchandise for it. But some company did make a sticker of it. I'm actually working on a huge article, kind of because I've been collecting these for so long. I want to make basically a guide for collectors because there's so many that people don't even know exist. My buddy Sean from Branded in the 80s did some nice coverage of them already online, so I recommend checking out his article on it if anyone's interested in seeing them. But yeah, they're these prismatic stickers that are really shiny, and the art that's placed on top of them, it makes this really interesting visual. Sometimes it would be just original works of art, other times they would copy the movie posters. I'm pretty sure none of them were ever actually licensed. They were just making these legally. But it's really cool because you'd have like Michael Myers' knife, and rather than printing on it, they would let the prismatic material shine from behind it. So most of the sticker was covered in ink and all that, but they let certain elements shine through on these, and they're really cool looking stickers. So that's one of my horror obsessions as of the past 5 years. I've been amassing a very large collection of those.
Awesome.
They're not cheap these days, but sometimes you can find them for really cheap if you get lucky and you're obsessive like I am.
Very cool. Very cool.
I'll be showcasing those sometime for sure.
Well, I'll look out for that. You asked if I had heard of any of these sort of vending machine things. Not in the sense that would sell sort of... I've never come across any that where you'd put, I don't know, 50 pence in and you'd come out with a horror sticker. But there's definitely stuff like that in the UK where you'd get like stickers and old stickers and stuff, and even like
I got some pins from the UK that were given out with old ice pops back in the day. You would buy them, and these little horror pins that you could just stick on your chest or wherever. I love stuff like that. There's some old pasta that the Heinz company put out back in the day, and it's Halloween themed, and I actually have a can of that stuff. So
Halloween themed pasta.
Yep.
That is. Is it in like the shape of like vampires and things?
Like the little pasta shapes, just like SpaghettiOs
Yeah.
what have you, but they're shaped like ghosts or bats or pumpkins, things like that.
That is
Heinz
incredible.
did a real Ghostbusters, based on the cartoon
Yeah.
pasta, and that stuff we never got here. So you guys actually do get some really awesome stuff that we never get. So
I
so
think I
we're
think I should make myself.
Halloween here, but you guys have some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah, I think I should make myself more aware of the bizarre things that are going on in this country.
Oh yeah, there's so many great things from yesteryear that you guys have and if you search around, I'm sure you could find them at different swap meets or flea markets or just on eBay or what have you.
Yeah, I probably think so. Um, Again, just moving on to a slightly different topic for
Yeah.
a minute, where I actually first was introduced to you was on one of your early and many appearances on Screen Junkies movie fights.
Oh, very cool. Yeah,
Was
they've been,
yeah,
those were a lot of fun doing those, and every now, just last October, I did their horror movie one
yes,
and dress up in my Halloween suit and all that. So
yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
I mean, I believe now I might not be 100% statistically correct here. I believe you are still have made the most appearances of any non-Screen Junkie.
I don't know if that's the case at this point. There's definitely some other guys on there, who've probably been on more. The funny thing is I live within walking distance of their studios, but they definitely don't have me on nearly as often as I'd like to. I think they're very focused on shifting it up lately, and they've obviously been bringing in celebrity names and all that.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think I'm just too weird for them. I don't know. I mean, my record on movies fights speaks for itself. That they think I'm a bit weird, but I'd rather just be honest with my answers than try to talk about saying I love the Fast and the Furious or some crap like
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely. I mean, I always love when you're on the slightly more rare occasion that you will turn up these days. But you were really one of the first sort of
Yeah, I was
not consistent guests.
the first episodes. They when the show first started, I was on pretty much every month for a while. And
Yeah.
now it's been going on for a while. I think it's like every 6 months if I'm lucky or something like that. And I do their TV fights show as well.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to have a subscription for that. But Roxy, the host, she
Yeah.
is fantastic, and we always have a blast talking on that. No
Oh,
matter how crazy it gets.
I watch TV fights too. I'm a subscriber of all that. So yes.
But before Screen Junkies, I actually had a horror show of my own called Doc Mock's Movie Mausoleum, where I was a horror host talking about all kinds of different B movies and weird stuff. And I would actually show them and bring on different comedian guests from the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here in Los Angeles. And
Yeah.
sometimes we get some bigger guests like Lloyd Kaufman or
Mhm.
Tony Huss or people like that, Paul Scheer. So
Right.
we would have some really fun, crazy independent films to show, and it was kind of like basically like Commander USA or Mystery Science Theater, only it wasn't
Okay.
scripted. It was completely improvised, and we commentated on the films. Unfortunately, the studio that we shot those in went down years later, and I'm hoping to bring the show back sometime. I love doing the Doc Mock character and the voice and all that. It's basically just like this mad scientist with giant hair.
Fantastic.
You can see some images of it on docmock.com.
Fantastic.
But hopefully I'll get the episodes up online again sometime, because I would definitely love to show those with everyone. We have some really fun ones. So
Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. That is a fantastic title for a show as well.
oh yeah, we had a really fun theme song too. If you go on YouTube and just look up Doc Mock's Movie Mausoleum, the intro to the show is still on there. And,
Okay.
that'll be fun writing the music for that and all that. So good times.
Yeah, awesome. Just going back to movie fights just for a minute. obviously you say you know, you love going on. What is it that makes you want to sort of keep going back? And not that you,
Well,
like we've said, not that you
just
necessarily.
the same reason I've done iMockery for so long. I love writing. I love performing, and just reaching new audiences to tell them about the stuff that I'm into. Because
Yeah,
movie fights they tend to talk about a lot of the mainstream stuff,
yeah,
and that's great. But I love being that wild card weirdo who's going to maybe introduce people to something they hadn't seen before.
yeah,
I can't tell you how many people have thanked me for introducing them to Halloween 3 just because of that
right,
show. Just knowing that, I never care if I win or lose on that show. It's just more fun to just be
yeah.
yourself, make people laugh, and give everyone a good time and a unique perspective. So that's why I like doing it. So hopefully they'll have me on more. And if you guys want to see me on there more, just tell Andy Signor. It's always up to him.
Yeah,
Just
tweet at
tweet
Andy
that.
Signor.
Yeah.
We want Roger Barr on every month again.
Yeah, they've been talking to me recently about having me on, but I think they had some themed episodes that they were planning on doing, and
Right.
last week they brought in some more new people and all that, which is always good to have
Yeah.
variety there. But it's always nice when they remember the guys who really started out the show, like myself and Mike Carlson and some of the
Yes.
other Nick Mundy. We were the guys who were really there in the beginning, and it's always nice when we can get together and have some funny debates.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you bring up the show that they just did with 9 new guests, and
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to have Miss Stacey Howard on this
Oh, great.
show a couple of.
Stacey's wonderful. Her and Brienne, I
Yeah.
love both of them. They're wonderful. I've actually done their podcast as well, and they're just wonderful, lovely ladies.
Yeah, they really are. They are wonderful people. Stacey was a fantastic guest a
Yeah,
couple of
you
episodes
should have
ago.
Brienne on sometime as well.
I should definitely have Brienne on.
Smooth.
I know I should have Brienne on.
She 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 and other people say we were separated at birth because we look a lot alike. She's my sister from another mister.
Oh my god, I've never noticed it before.
Yeah, it's the hair.
It is it's the hair. It's the beautiful hair. Roger, is there anything you want to plug right at the end here?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to just read my articles or any of the other weird things I've covered over the years, just head over to imockery.com. That's the letter I hyphen mockery.com. You can check me out on Twitter at imockery. There's no hyphen there, just IMOCKERY. And check out Grave Chase this fall. We're going to be releasing that game, and all of my other games are currently online. You can, again, find all those on iMockery and everything, and play those ones for free. So, yeah. But thanks so much for having me on, guys. I mean, it's awesome to, this is what I love talking about. I mean, this is what I spend all my time writing and
Yeah.
researching. So it's always fun to talk to new people about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a great pleasure of mine to have you on. It is truly an honour that you agreed to do this. Guys, if you did enjoy this episode with Roger Barr, please share this episode around. And if you're on YouTube, please sub to this channel for loads more content on this channel that you know, of course. And if you are on iTunes, if you're feeling generous, please rate and review over there. Let's get some good stuff happening on iTunes as well.
Yeah, and if you hated the episode, still share it around.
Yeah, that makes
You're
sense.
a good guy, and don't blame don't punish the episode because I'm not.
You're a wonderful guy. You're a wonderful guy. Roger, yes, again, thank you so much for doing this.
All mine, man. Thank you so much. I love talking about this stuff, so happy to do it again.
Oh, that's great. That is fantastic to hear. Yes, guys, thank you as always for listening. And until next time, goodbye.